I didn't plan on running into Austin on my first night back. Hell, I didn't even plan on staying in this town longer than a week. I told myself I was immune now. Older, tougher. That whatever I'd left behind here had lost its grip on me years ago. But the second I stepped into O'Malley's same low ceiling, same sticky floors, same neon beer signs buzzing like they always had, I felt it in my chest. That tight, familiar pressure. Like my body remembered something my mind had tried to forget. And then I saw him. Austin Reed, leaning against the bar like he'd never left, like time had politely stepped around him. My stomach dropped. Some people haunt you in obvious ways. Nightmares, regret, angry memories you replay when you can't sleep. Austin was worse than that. He was the reason I ran. The reason I packed my life into 2 suitcases at 22 and didn't look back once. And now here I was, Hunter Collins, 30, supposedly put together, standing 10 feet away from the man I'd once loved so deeply it scared the hell out of me. I almost walked right back out. But then he turned his head. Our eyes met, and I swear to God, the room tilted. He still had that same look, dark hair, just a little too long, jaw rough with stubble, shoulders broad like he carried the weight of the world without realizing it. But there was something different now. Harder, quieter. Like life had sanded down the boy I remembered and left behind a man who'd learned how to survive. His expression shifted in real time. Confusion, recognition, disbelief. Then something sharper. "Hunter," he said. My name, in his voice, after all these years. I hadn't heard it spoken like that since the night everything fell apart. Hey, I managed, like this was normal. Like I hadn't spent years pretending he didn't exist. The silence between us stretched, thick and uncomfortable. The noise of the bar faded into the background, and suddenly it felt like we were the only 2 people left in town. Just like before. I'd grown up here. This place shaped me. And Austin had been at the center of it all. We'd met in high school, back when everything felt too big and too close at the same time. Small town. One way out. He was my best friend before he was anything else. The guy who showed up at my window at midnight. The guy who knew when I was lying. The guy I kissed for the first time in his truck, hands shaking, hearts pounding, both of us terrified and reckless and stupid enough to think we could keep it secret forever. We couldn't. And when it all blew up, when fear turned into anger, and anger into words you can't take back, I ran. I didn't fight. I didn't explain. I just left. Austin never chased me. That hurt more than I ever admitted. "Didn't think I'd ever see you back here," he said finally, his tone careful. Guarded. "Yeah," I replied. "Me neither." There was so much I wanted to say. An apology that was years too late. Questions I didn't know if I deserved answers to. But instead, we stood there, 2 strangers shaped by the same past, pretending we weren't still bleeding from it. "So," he said, gesturing vaguely. "How long you in town?" I hesitated. "Not sure," I said. And for the first time since I'd arrived, that was the truth. Because standing there, looking at him, I realized something I hadn't expected at all. Coming back wasn't just reopening old memories. It was reopening something unfinished. We didn't talk much after that. Not really. Austin went back to his beer. I went back to pretending my hands weren't shaking as I ordered a whiskey I didn't need. The bartender glanced between us like he could sense the history humming under the surface. In a town this small, maybe he already knew. "So you back for good?" Austin asked, eyes fixed on the bottle in his hand. The question landed heavier than he probably meant it to. I shrugged. "Just helping my mom sort some stuff out. She's thinking about selling the house." He nodded slowly. "That house. My house. The place where everything had started and ended. Still on Maple Street?" he asked. "Yeah." A corner of his mouth twitched. Figures. Another pause. There were 1,000 things I wanted to ask him. Did you ever hate me? Did you ever miss me? Did I ruin you the way I ruined myself? But instead, I took a sip of whiskey and said the safest thing I could think of. "You still working at the garage?" He snorted softly. "God, no. Left that years ago." Then, after a beat, "I run my own place now. Auto shop just outside town." "Good for you," I said, and meant it. The thing was, Austin had always been capable. Smarter than he let on. Stronger than anyone gave him credit for. I was the one who panicked. I was the one who couldn't breathe inside this town, inside the expectations, inside the fear of being seen. He glanced at me again, really looked this time. "You look different." I laughed under my breath. "That's one way to put it." "No," he said, shaking his head slightly. I mean confident. Or trying to be. That stung more than I expected. Because he wasn't wrong. I learned how to fake it, I said. Our eyes met again. And for a moment, it felt like we were 18, hiding in his truck with the windows fogged up, whispering about leaving, about a future that didn't include this place. You staying long? He asked again, quieter this time. I don't know, I repeated. Then, against my better judgment, I added, maybe longer than I planned. He didn't smile, but something in his posture shifted, like he was bracing himself. Well, he said, draining his beer and setting the bottle down. If you need anything while you're here. He let the sentence trail off. Yeah, I said. Thanks. He nodded once, then pushed off the bar. For a second, I thought he was going to leave without another word. But then he paused, turned back, and said, I'm glad you're not a ghost anymore. And just like that, he was gone. I sat there long after, staring at the empty space where he'd been, my chest tight with emotions I'd spent years burying. Regret, relief, fear, something dangerously close to hope. When I finally left the bar, the night air hit me hard. The town was quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you hear your own thoughts too clearly. I drove back to my mom's place on autopilot, passing familiar streets, old landmarks, memories stacked on memories. The house looked smaller than I remembered. Inside, everything smelled like dust and lemon cleaner. My old room was still mostly intact, same bed frame, same dresser, same faded posters I'd never bothered to take down. I sat on the edge of the bed and laughed softly. I'd thought leaving meant I'd outrun this place. Turns out, it had just been waiting. And so had Austin. I lay back, staring at the ceiling, my mind replaying the way he'd said my name. The way he'd looked at me, not angry, not warm, but unresolved. Like a question neither of us had ever answered. I didn't sleep much that night. Because deep down, I knew something had shifted the moment we locked eyes across that bar. And whether I was ready or not, the past had found me again. The next morning, the town felt smaller than ever. I woke up early, sunlight cutting through the blinds, dust floating in the air like it had nowhere else to go. For a second, I forgot where I was. Then I heard a truck pass outside, tires humming over familiar pavement, and it all came rushing back. Home, or whatever this place was to me now. Mom was already up, moving around the kitchen like she always did, quiet, efficient, pretending nothing was different even though everything was. We talked about practical things. The house, old paperwork, neighbors who'd asked about me like I was some rumor that had finally come true. No one mentioned Austin. Of course they didn't. I told myself I wouldn't think about him that day. That lasted maybe an hour. I went out to run errands, partly to be helpful, partly because sitting in that house felt like suffocating. Every street corner held a memory. Every red light reminded me of somewhere I'd once parked, someone I'd once been. I didn't plan on driving past his shop, but my hands turned the wheel before my brain could stop them. The place was bigger than I expected. Clean. Professional. His name painted clearly on the sign. Reed Automotive. Seeing his last name like that, solid. Permanent, hit me harder than it should have. I sat in the car for a full minute before getting out. Inside, it smelled like oil and metal and coffee. A radio played low in the background. I almost turned around when I heard his voice before I saw him. Give me 10, I'll take a look. Austin was leaning over an engine, sleeves rolled up, grease on his forearms. He looked good, comfortable, like this was where he belonged. Then he noticed me. His body stilled for half a second. Hey, he said. Hey. I replied, suddenly very aware of how out of place I looked. You stalking me now? He added lightly, but his eyes searched my face like he was bracing for something. Just passing through, I said. Thought I'd say hi. He nodded, wiped his hands on a rag. You want coffee or something? Might be terrible. Fair warning. I've had worse. He disappeared into a small back room, and I stood there, heart pounding, realizing this was the first time we'd been alone together since, ever, not counting last night. And even then, we'd had a bar and 100 people between us. He handed me a chipped mug. Our fingers brushed. Electric. Still. So, he said, leaning against the counter. First daylight run in. Yeah. Another pause. We were both doing that thing, talking around the real conversation. How's your mom? He asked. Same, I said. Worried. Pretending she's not. He smiled faintly. Sounds like her. I hesitated, then asked, you ever think about back then? He didn't answer right away. His jaw tightened, then relaxed. Every once in a while, he said carefully. Hard not to. I nodded. I should have handled things differently. He met my eyes. Yeah, you should have. It wasn't cruel. Just honest. I know, I said. I was scared. I know. He repeated, quieter this time. Silence stretched between us, but it wasn't empty. It was heavy with everything we hadn't said, everything we still might. Finally, he straightened. You sticking around today? Yeah. He hesitated, then said, there's a lake outside town. You remember it? I did. Of course I did. I'm heading there after I close up, he continued. If you want to talk. Really talk. My heart kicked hard against my ribs. I'd like that, I said. He nodded once. Good. As I walked back to my car, my hands were shaking again, but this time, it wasn't fear. It was the realization that I hadn't just come back to face the past. I'd come back to see if there was still a future buried underneath it. The lake hadn't changed. That was the first thing I noticed when I pulled up later that evening. Same narrow dirt road. Same crooked wooden sign half hidden by trees. Same stretch of water that reflected the sky like it was keeping secrets. Austin's truck was already there. I sat in my car for a second longer than necessary, nerves buzzing under my skin. This felt different from the bar, different from the shop. There was no crowd, no noise, no easy exit. Just us, and everything we'd never finished. He was standing near the water when I got out, hands shoved into his pockets, staring across the lake like he was bracing himself. When he turned and saw me, his expression softened just slightly. You remember how to get here, he said. Something stick, I replied. We walked along the shore in silence, boots crunching over gravel and leaves. The air smelled like pine and damp earth. Somewhere in the distance, a bird called out, sharp and lonely. I used to come here after you left, Austin said suddenly. I stopped walking. He didn't look at me, just kept his eyes on the water. I figured, I said quietly. I should have called. Or written. Or something. You should have, he agreed. Then finally turned to me. But you didn't. I didn't know how, I said. I thought, if I stayed, I'd ruin both of us. He exhaled slow. Instead, you just ruined one. The words hit hard. Deservedly. I wasn't ready, I said. I am now. Or at least, more than I was. That's the problem, he replied. You get to come back ready. I had to figure out how to live with it. Guilt twisted in my chest. Did you hate me? He shook his head. No. I tried. Would have been easier. We stood there, close enough now that I could feel the warmth coming off him. The same pull. The same gravity. Years hadn't dulled it. If anything, it felt sharper. I never stopped thinking about you, I admitted. His jaw tightened. Don't. Why? Because I don't know what to do with that, he said. Not after everything. I swallowed. Do you still feel it? He looked at me then. Really looked at me. The answer was written all over his face. Yes, he said. That's what scares me. A breeze rippled across the lake, sending shivers through the water and through me. I don't want to hurt you again, I said. Then don't run, he replied immediately. The silence that followed was thick, fragile. I stepped closer, heart pounding so loud I was sure he could hear it. I'm not the same guy who left, I said. But I won't lie to you, I am still figuring things out. So am I, he said. Every day. Our shoulders brushed. Neither of us moved away. I don't know what this is yet, Austin continued, voice low. But if we do this, if we try, you don't get to disappear. I won't, I said. I promise. He searched my face like he was weighing whether to believe me. Then, slowly, he reached out and took my hand. Just like that. No rush. No fireworks. Just warmth. Familiar and terrifying and grounding all at once. The world felt very small in that moment. And for the first time since I'd come back, I didn't feel like I was standing on the edge of something I'd already lost. I felt like I was standing at the beginning. We stayed like that for a while. Hands linked. Neither of us saying anything, like words might ruin the fragile truce forming between us. It was Austin who pulled away first, not sharply, not cold, just enough to breathe again. Come on, he said. Let's walk. We moved along the shoreline, slower now, closer than before. Our arms brushed occasionally, deliberate this time. Every touch felt loaded, like our bodies were still speaking a language our mouths hadn't caught up to yet. You ever regret leaving? He asked. The question was quiet, not accusing, curious. Yes, I said without hesitation. And no. He glanced at me. That's a cop-out. I know, I admitted. But it's the truth. I needed to go. I just didn't need to disappear the way I did. He nodded. I spent a long time telling myself you were just another guy who couldn't handle this town. And now, he said, I know you were scared of wanting more than it would ever give you. That hit close. Too close. We reached the old dock, the one with the loose boards and the rusted nails. The one we'd sat on as teenagers, feet dangling in the water, pretending we weren't in love yet. Austin dropped down onto it, stretching his legs out. I followed. You ever tell anyone about us? I asked. He shook his head. No. You. Once, I said. Didn't go great. He huffed a quiet laugh. Shocking. The sky was darkening, streaked with pink and orange. The kind of sunset that makes you believe in second chances even when you shouldn't. You staying at your mom's the whole time? He asked. For now. Town still feels like it's watching you. Yeah, I said. But it doesn't feel as sharp anymore. That's because you're older, he said. Or because you don't care as much. Or because you're here, I said before I could stop myself. He went still. I braced myself for him to pull away, to shut down. Instead, he leaned back on his hands and looked at the sky. I'm not a safety net, Hunter, he said. I know, I replied. That's not what I meant. He turned to me then. What did you mean? I swallowed. That I don't feel like I'm doing this alone anymore. Something softened in his eyes. Good, he said quietly. Because I'm tired of doing it alone too. A beat. Then another. I don't know what this turns into, he continued. Could be nothing. Could be messy. I've done messy, I said. I'm still standing. He smirked. Barely. I laughed, the sound surprising both of us. It felt good. Easy. Like something unclenching in my chest. As the sun dipped below the trees, the air grew cooler. Austin shrugged out of his jacket and after a second's hesitation draped it over my shoulders. Still always forget one, he said. Some things don't change. Our eyes met again, closer this time. The space between us felt charged, humming with something we both recognized. He didn't kiss me. Not yet. But when we stood to leave, his hand found mine again, firmer this time. Like he was choosing it. And for the first time in a long time, I let myself believe that staying might not mean losing myself. It might mean finally being seen. We didn't talk much on the drive back. Not because there was nothing to say, but because there was too much, and neither of us wanted to rush it. The radio stayed off. The road stretched out ahead of us, dark and familiar, headlights cutting through the night. Austin dropped me off at my mom's place. He didn't come inside. Tomorrow, he asked, one hand on the steering wheel, the other still resting between us on the console. Tomorrow, I said. I watched his truck pull away before going inside, my chest buzzing with a nervous energy I hadn't felt in years. Not anxiety. Anticipation. That night, I dreamed about him. Not the way I used to, desperate, frantic, all heat and confusion. This time it was quiet. His hand in mine. His voice saying my name like it wasn't a question anymore. The next few days unfolded slowly, almost cautiously. We started with coffee, then lunch, then long walks where we talked about everything except the thing hovering between us. Work, life, the years we'd missed, the people we'd become. Austin told me about the shop, how he'd almost lost it once, how staying here hadn't been easy, but it had been his choice. I told him about the city, the relationships that never quite fit, the way I'd always compared them to something I never properly let go of. You were my unfinished sentence, I admitted one afternoon. He looked at me, expression unreadable. You still are. One evening, we ended up back at the lake again. No plan. It just happened. The air was warmer this time, fireflies blinking in the distance. We sat on the hood of his truck, shoulders touching. This feels dangerous, he said. Yeah, I replied. But honest. He turned toward me. Slowly. Like he was giving me time to pull away. I didn't. When he kissed me, it wasn't rushed or hungry. It was careful, almost reverent. Like he was confirming something rather than starting it. My hand found his neck instinctively. His breath hitched. Years collapsed into that single moment, and suddenly everything we'd avoided was right there between us. When we pulled back, our foreheads rested together. I meant what I said, he murmured. No disappearing. I'm here, I said. I'm really here. He searched my face one last time, then nodded. Okay. That one word carried more weight than any grand declaration. Later, lying in my old bed at my mom's house, I stared at the ceiling again, but this time, I wasn't haunted. I was aware of how much I still had to figure out, of how fragile second chances can be, of how terrifying it is to stay when leaving has always been easier. But for the first time, the idea of staying didn't feel like giving something up. It felt like choosing something real. And choosing Austin fully, honestly, might just be the bravest thing I'd ever done. The problem with choosing something real is that real things don't stay suspended in perfect moments. Reality showed up about a week later unannounced, unapologetic. It was a Thursday afternoon when Austin found me sitting on the hood of my car outside the house, phone pressed to my ear, jaw tight. I didn't notice him at first. I was too busy listening to my life on the other end of the line. "We really need an answer, Hunter," my boss said. "If you're coming back, it's soon. If not, we need to replace you." "I know," I said. "I just need a little more time." There was a pause. "You already took time." The call ended shortly after. No anger, just inevitability. When I looked up, Austin was standing a few feet away, hands in his pockets. He'd heard enough. I could tell by the way his shoulders were set. "City?" he asked. "Yeah." He nodded slowly. "They want you back. They need an answer." Silence settled between us, not awkward, not new, just heavy. We went inside. Mom wasn't home. The house felt too quiet, like it was listening. "So this is the part where it gets complicated," Austin said finally. "I didn't plan for this," I replied. "I didn't come back for you expecting dash." "I know," he cut in gently. "I'm not accusing." I rubbed a hand over my face. "I built a life there. Not a great one, but it's mine." "And here?" he asked. I looked at him. Really looked at him. "Here feels like the part of me I never finished." He let out a breath. Sat down across from me. "I can't leave," he said quietly. "The shop, my dad, everything am rooted here." "I know. And I can't do long distance," he continued. "Not again. Not with you. I won't be someone you visit when life slows down." The words hurt because they were fair. "I wouldn't ask you to be," I said. "Good," he replied. "Because I need someone who chooses this place. Not just me." That night, I didn't sleep. I walked the neighborhood instead, past old houses, cracked sidewalks, memories stitched into every block. I realized something uncomfortable. This town no longer scared me the way it once had. What scared me was deciding who I was without running. The next morning, I drove out early. No destination, just thinking. When I came back, Austin was at the shop. I didn't go inside right away. I sat in my car, hands on the wheel, heart pounding. Then I got out. He looked up when the bell rang. "Hey." "Hey," I said. "You busy?" "Always," he replied. "What's up?" I took a breath. I turned down the offer. His eyes widened slightly. "You what?" "I told them I'm not coming back," I said. "I don't know what I'm doing next. I don't have a plan yet. But I know I don't want to keep building a life that feels like it's missing its foundation." He stared at me like he was afraid to hope. "You're sure?" he asked. "No," I said honestly. "But I'm done choosing easy exits." A long moment passed. Then he crossed the space between us and pulled me into a hug tight. Grounding, real. I felt his breath against my shoulder, the slight tremor in his hands. "Stay," he murmured. "I am," I said. And for the first time, the word didn't feel temporary. It felt like a commitment. Staying didn't fix everything overnight. Life doesn't work like that, no matter how badly you want it to. The town still gossiped. Money was still tight. I picked up freelance work where I could, helped my mom finish sorting the house, started filling my days with things that didn't involve running. Some mornings I woke up panicked, wondering if I'd made a massive mistake. But then there were mornings when I woke up knowing exactly where I was and why. Austin and I didn't rush into anything flashy. No grand declarations. No pretending the past hadn't happened. We took it slow, like people who'd learned the cost of moving too fast. Some nights we cooked dinner at his place, bumping into each other in the tiny kitchen, laughing over burned pans and bad playlists. Other nights we sat on the porch in silence, his shoulder pressed against mine, the town quiet around us. Once, I asked him, "Do you ever think this won't work?" He nodded. "All the time." "Then why are you still here?" I asked. He looked at me, steady and sure. "Because this time you are." That was the thing. I didn't feel like I was borrowing a life anymore. Months passed. I started helping out at the shop, nothing fancy, just paperwork, logistics, the things Austin hated. Slowly, without meaning to, I built something that felt solid. Not impressive, not glamorous, just real. One evening, we went back to the lake. No tension this time. No heavy conversations waiting to ambush us. Just water, sky, and the sound of crickets. Austin took my hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. "You know," he said, "I used to think you leaving meant I wasn't enough. I stopped walking. I never left because of you. I know, he said. Took me a while to learn that. I squeezed his hand. I left because I didn't know how to stay and still be myself. And now, he asked. Now, I said. I know staying doesn't mean disappearing. He smiled at that. A real smile. The kind I hadn't seen on him back then. Later that night, lying beside him, listening to his breathing even out as he fell asleep, I realized something simple and terrifying. Running had always felt like freedom, but choosing someone, choosing a place, choosing myself, that felt stronger. I didn't come back to my hometown to reclaim the past. I came back to face it, forgive it, and finally move forward with the one person who had always felt like home, even when I was too afraid to admit it. And this time, I wasn't going anywhere.